Welcome to episode 26 of 22 Man Game with Jared and Dame. I'm Jared. That's Damon. It is 5:05 on Friday, February 13th. Oh, Friday the 13th, 2026. The fact that it's episode 26 right after we wrap up the 2025 season with the Super Bowl feels very fitting. How you doing, Damon?
I'm doing well now, Jared. It's been a long week now. The the listener may know that we had two episodes last week, but they were recorded early in the week and then split into two. Um, and on last Friday, a week ago, I had surgery for a multitude of things in my face, adenoids, deviated septum, some other things, ear tubes, and my very own Jared here, my very own good friend, drove me at 6 a.m. to the surgery center and picked me up at like noon or 1 or something. And then took care of me, and then it sucked for like 4 days, and I was bleeding out of my face. And then yesterday I got the tubes pulled out, and now my nose and ears both work as they're supposed to. Um, so yay, happy, happy, happy. I watched the Super Bowl like half alive, and which is all I needed because it was a tough Super Bowl.
Yeah, I would
Uh,
say the Patriots could similarly be described as half alive. So
yeah.
if you're in good company, if anything. Definitely where we want to start today with
How are
that
you?
Super Bowl. Oh, how am I? Must I talk about myself? I'm fine. On balance, I'm fine. I'm a little frustrated. The listener need not know why.
I know why.
Damon
I'll
does know why.
keep it in here.
Yeah, lock in the nog there. But
If you want to know, like, comment, and subscribe.
like, comment, and subscribe. If we get 100,000 likes on this video,
Oh man.
I'll tell the epic tale.
Mm.
Anyway, no, I'm mostly all right. I've got family coming in town this weekend, so um, this is kind of my last day of relative ease because obviously I work on Saturdays, and then it's Valentine's Day tomorrow, so I'll be doing things for that, and then I'm rolling straight into seeing family
Shout out
Sunday
Addie.
through Tuesday. Shout out Addie, very good partner, very beautiful soul. Don't need to alienate the listener with my sappiness. Speaking of sapping, shout out to the Patriots and Seahawks for sapping the life out of America by playing a game that was for 3 quarters uninteresting and for 1 quarter disappointing because it turned what could have been a shutout into a score that looks more respectable than the game was. Damon, you want to take us through the score here and some big hits from the game?
Yeah, so Seahawks 29, Patriots 13, and that score, like you said, closer than it seems. It was really a Seahawks domination through and through. Not even on offense, really. They just had good enough defense that the Patriots were kind of constantly punting, three and outs, etc. Good field position for the Seahawks. They get a couple first downs. Jason Myers kicks a field goal. I believe it was 12-0 until the first touchdown was scored by the Seahawks, who up 19-0. So, um, it was pretty boring and uneventful. Nothing super exciting going on. It wasn't like these crazy defensive plays like, oh my God, this wild interception or this big sack. It was really just kind of grindy. And the Patriots, they played passive to me. They played scared almost. Like they didn't really ever take shots until it was kind of already way too late. They were kind of just content with not doing anything on offense for a long time, um, and probably too long. And that was kind of the story. And I think we both predicted the Seahawks to win this, if I remember correctly. Part of that was because the Patriots' path here was pretty unconvincing, right? Chargers, they were terrible on offense. They only put up three. And then the Texans, CJ Stroud throwing the four picks, that was really tough for them. And the Broncos without Bo Nix. So this was like their first really true test, and they just didn't show up, really, is what it felt like. So Seahawks clearly the better team and clearly deserving the Super Bowl win here, I think.
Yeah, I wonder if we're going to look back at this as one of the weaker kind of conferences in a season. I feel like this year's AFC really only had one or two playoff teams that felt like true playoff teams, and they the Jaguars honestly were maybe the most convincing team, alongside maybe the Bills in that first round on the AFC side. Otherwise, it was a lot of like,
Yeah.
close games, and I think that came due. I may have picked the Patriots just because I was worried that some magic was propelling them in ways I couldn't predict. But that all came crashing down. Frankly, I think to not to the relief of viewers, but I do think if the Patriots had somehow snuck away with a final close game, it would have left a bit of a bad taste because, to your point, this game was incredibly unflashy. The Seahawks defense was very disruptive, but not in ways that were particularly explosive. Patriots didn't respond with many explosive offensive plays. The MVP of this game was Kenneth Walker, which should say a lot. We got a record for most field goals in a Super Bowl by one kicker, I believe. So that was
Jason
five.
Myers could
Jason
have been
Myers showing up.
MVP.
A couple things, and Heed the Call talked about these things, but when you were watching the game, the
Yeah.
punting by Seattle was excellent.
Oh, Ed. No, not Ed. Something Dixon. Michael
Michael
Dixon, I
Dixon, right?
believe.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Oh my
Um,
God. Punt dots, putting him inside the 5 yard line multiple times. Yeah, he was great.
it's a legitimate what I really appreciated about that as a football kind of occurrence in a moment is it did spotlight how even the parts of the game we don't think about often can feel like deciding factors. And in a game where there wasn't a lot of truly explosive play, even the Patriots were relatively kind of turnover free until it felt like that second half when they started taking stabs. Um, yeah, it was one of those things where it actually really shined and I think felt like a decisive edge for Seattle, that sort of put them over the top compared to the other middling performance, right? Um,
Hmm.
Patriots defense did have some chances early, but this is again a borrowed point from another podcast, but there was no trickeration at all. There was no like it didn't feel like a very creative game. It felt like two teams executing their best vanilla stuff against each other. And to your point, the Patriots ran out of time to do that very quickly. It just was not going to work. So, I think at the end of the day, a disappointing contest. I think a sentiment that I felt, the people I was watching with felt, it would have been nice if it had just stayed a shutout. Like if you're going to do this, do it all the way. Instead, it turns into some late points for the Patriots that never snowballed into enough momentum to put the Seahawks in real jeopardy. And I think, in a funny way, I almost wonder whether the quality of the game being so middling put more of a spotlight on the advertisements, which I've seen a lot of YouTubers and other, people making fun of the advertising for this year's Super Bowl in particular in a way that um, feels a little unfamiliar. Have you seen some of this discourse?
No, yeah. Well, I was going to ask, well, like, what do you like? People talking about the commercials, or what do you mean?
Yeah, the fact that every commercial was, essentially AI
Mm, of
or, just like there was gambling quite a bit that a lot of people I've seen
course.
talk
I'm
about.
like
But
immune to it at this point.
yeah, to me it was the propensity of like, okay, I wonder if there's going to be an AI platform solution advertised in an uninteresting way. Um, and I honestly, as somebody who really likes the ads, I felt like there were very few standouts. Um, and that's kind
Yeah,
of
no,
disappointing.
nothing comes to mind. Like, I don't even remember a commercial that I saw.
The only I remember the Keegan Michael Key one because I remember it being very disappointing for State Farm where they just kind of did a stupid musical number with set pieces. And I enjoy Neil Diamond, and so Andy Samberg pretending to be Neil Diamond and singing about mayonnaise worked for me.
Hmm.
But other than that, there was maybe one that I remember thinking, "Oh, that was kind of clever," but the rest of them were just like people in an office and they're not doing things very well. And then they have this tech solution. It's like, oh, okay, cool guys. Um,
I could rant about AI and basically people using AI art, quote unquote, which is not real, but just putting in prompts and such to videos and creating it, and that's the thing, and that's it's horrible, it's terrible. So I do appreciate things like Andy Samberg singing that are not that.
Yeah, I think it's honestly a shame because I think a lot of advertising early it was food and it was cars. That's what I remember growing up, right? Doritos would always have a pretty iconic spot year over
Hmm.
year. And I honestly can't remember. I know Lay's had advertising, but I don't know if Doritos specifically had an ad. And the Bud Night was like iconic in middle and high school, where Bud Light would do these over the top, extravagant like combat epics, and that was just I felt like completely missing. And I think it would be nice to see some of that kind of inspired creativity return. Granted, the fact that it's all on social media now kills some of the buzz, but
Yeah.
anyway, I don't want to belabor this too much. Did you
More.
have thoughts? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, no, no.
Did you have thoughts on the music? I was curious if you had input
Yeah,
on the halftime show and
I put the music arrangement here. So opening ceremony by Green Day, which I think is kind of funny because Green Day's old and like rebellious is like their thing. So
Mhm.
them doing like, something that's like super America, then it's like Green Day. It feels like an odd choice. I like it. I mean, again, and this kind of goes back to the commercials too. I was half alive. I was like a day after surgery. I was probably sleeping during the commercials on accident. Um, National Anthem, Charlie Puth. That's a name I know. I think he's good. I didn't listen to it. Um, and then I don't know anything about Brandy, Charlie, or Coco Jones for the next two pieces.
Um, yeah, Brandy Carlisle, to jump in on that last name there,
Did I
with
just
America the
type?
Beautiful.
I could have just typed it absolutely incorrectly.
It's definitely Brandy Carlisle because I've listened to her music outside of the context of the Super Bowl.
I just read that so wrong. Maybe I typed these in
You're-
notes when I was on anesthesia too.
no, no, you're good. Yeah, no, Brandy Carlisle. I didn't catch "Lift Every Voice and Sing" by Coco Jones, but I like Brandy Carlisle. I think she has a nice voice. I know that Charlie Puth sang the national anthem. I don't remember a moment of it. One thing I will say, looking at this list now, I don't know what genre Coco Jones is, but it seems like they kind of went for a variety in terms of the artists, including kind of Bad Bunny being more of I guess like reggaeton and kind of having a bit more of that kind of sound, and then Charlie Puth being a pop guy. Green Day obviously more rock, and Brandy Carlisle kind of has a country tour. So
And
I like that
Coco
they had a
Jones is
diversity.
R&B. So
Vocal Jones
yeah,
R&B. So it sounds like yeah, there was kind of
yeah.
a nice sort of variety of sounds. And I think that that's a nice tactic, honestly, and something I hope they continue is like, hey, we're gonna kind of let every sort of genre appear somewhere in the programming, or at least a number of major genres. And Green Day probably got people whipped up. I watched a little bit of the kind of tail end as we were getting ready, kind of hosting a Super Bowl event. Um, and they're fun. They still have it, loud and electric. And I thought Bad Bunny put on a nice show as well for the halftime. Obviously, not speaking Spanish, some of the message was lost, but it had a very, it seemed to be really striving to authentically recreate, based on everything I've read, Puerto Rican culture, right? And it was very joyous and concluded with a powerful full message of sort of connecting all of the Americas, North and South America, um, in sort of the "We Are All American" identity, which I thought was very cool.
Yeah, and that was the thing that I hoped happened and that I knew would draw the discourse. And it did draw some discourse. A lot of people that I know posting like Bad Bunny holding the Puerto Rican flag over his shoulder or like having the hand to the chest, that kind of thing, the image from that. Apparently, by the way, there was no grass. Apparently, it was people dressed as
It
grass, I
was
learned.
people, yeah, it's crazy.
That was wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. I couldn't tell at all when you're watching. Very cool. But I had to bring up the alternative halftime show
Oh yeah.
because I knew the Bad Bunny thing got a lot of like right-wing conservative people very upset, not an American person, etc. Um,
Well, I mean, Puerto Rico is an American territory, but
in their eyes, not an
right,
American
right,
person.
right, right, right. Well, if you don't
I'm
speak
not saying
English
I'm
and
not
look,
saying for
yeah,
me.
okay. All
Yeah.
right, tell us more. culturally insensitive Damon about your favorite
No,
halftime show.
no,
Go
no,
ahead.
no, 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 no. It's actually so funny. The only reason I saw this is because I looked on Twitter for like just any sort of, kind of what some of my favorite sports people, their takes from the first half of the game so far and stuff, because this was during halftime. And I had a sponsored ad for Turning Point USA's All-American halftime show. And I said, "What is this?" And I clicked on the poster. It was a bunch of names I didn't know. And Kid Rock.
Yep.
And I said, "Oh boy, Kid Rock, you say?" Of course, I didn't tune into a second of this. You're not gonna catch me dead listening to that. But I wanted to read the comments and see what are people, what's the discourse around this. And a lot of it was what I expected, kind of conservative-esque people being like, "Yeah, this is the real halftime show. Let's go, haha," that kind of thing. And then what I thought was really funny was there's a select group of people that were like, "Kid Rock, this is supposed to be Christian in America. Why is Kid Rock here?" Um, so I'm glad that even some people that I would think are not great also dislike Kid Rock. Kid Rock has a lot of, he's a bad guy. There's some I want to say molestation, rape-esque things on his profile, if I remember correctly. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Uh, I believe,
tough, tough,
unfortunately, that
tough.
Kid Rock is a Lions fan, so we do not claim him. I'm gonna go ahead and
No,
the team
no, we
may have
don't claim
invited him to
him.
some events at some point, but I do not claim him. Kid Rock being from Detroit, I believe. So yeah, I saw some clips from this just on like, when I'm scrolling through shorts, I get a lot of shorts from like The Daily Show, that kind of thing, and they were poking a lot of fun at this.
Hmm.
Um, I knew about it going in. I think it's just a little I don't even know what to say. I mean, I just think like it's such a I don't want to just regurgitate the points I've already heard, but I don't think it speaks well to a group of people that they feel the need to create an alternative space for themselves because the idea of inclusion is so offensive to them. It's like, what are you bristling towards? And when you say it out loud, do you sound like a supervillain? And in this particular
Yes.
circumstance, yeah, this is like,
Ah, they
yeah,
let the Puerto Rican guy perform. Ah, man.
someone who doesn't look and sound like me wants to perform. I hate people who don't look and sound like me. I'm not racist though. I just believe in traditional values. It's like kind of hard to reconcile these ideas.
I always
Um,
think back to these arguments too, and it's really funny because, and one of the things I should say, one of the reasons we're talking about this because our program is called Ethical Ball. It's like
yeah,
it's kind of
yeah,
our whole deal. Um, like America is not a place that its whole like foundation was about inclusion and like people coming to a place to be free and etc. There's no national language, there's no national like where it's just whatever, but people seem to think that it's supposed to be, white Christianity. But that's actually not the case.
yeah. I mean, it's especially ironically living in Texas. I feel like there is a lot of interaction between groups. Obviously, there's a large kind of Latin population here, and then I've even noticed going to the doctor that I think they'll have like I think it's in Vietnamese. Like they'll sometimes have like alternative
Okay.
translations that I would never expect to see where I grew up in Tennessee, right? I was in a very monocultural location, and so I feel like I often take joy from the small reminders that I'm surrounded by people with a totally different point of view from me. And I think that there's so much to be gained from seeing all the corners of the world. I mean, how much do you lock yourself away from just by saying, "Oh, that's not American," you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Is
and
there
go
no,
ahead, sorry.
sorry, finish your thought because I'm going to take us somewhere else.
I was just gonna say, I mean, American. It's also their operationally flawed definition of American, right? Like, I think anyone can be American if you show up. Like, it's not really an exclusive group, but the idea of like the traditional, you know, white conception of the American, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's difficult.
I was going to say, so like in terms of, we talked about the message it sent. Great message, obviously. I'm not overly familiar with Bad Bunny's music, so there wasn't a ton of like sing along kind of. I didn't have a lot of that.
Yeah.
Um, I thought it was fine though, like, and the performance itself was I think good. Do you have like something that comes to your mind when you think of like best or worst halftime shows that you
The
can remember
worst
from the
halftime
Super Bowl?
show I remember was The Weekend. That one was the one for me that jumped out as like I really did not
Really
like this. Yeah.
interesting. I liked the weekends. Um, the I think the bad part about the weekends was that he spent a lot of it not in the stadium or like not in front of the
That was
people.
my one of my primary complaints. I think it was a few things. I think one, The Weekend was super popular, and I was at an age in college where I was like, oh, popular, blah blah blah. So I was a little like
Hmm.
opposed on that front, I guess. I just didn't have any investment in his music. And then for me, beyond that, it failed on some account as a live show because he's doing half of it in these mirrored hallways. If I
Yeah, yeah.
recall, he had super heavily bandaged himself, which I feel like when you create any sort of restriction on your ability to sort of visually storytell and be expressive, like that is also a hampering. It felt a little bit more like a music video that happened to be performed during the Super Bowl than a live performance. That was my complaint with that one. But
No, that's super fair. I have two to come to mind when I think of worst. One was when I was really, really young. You may have been like even too young to remember The Who when they were super old, played in the halftime show, and it was like, oh, these guys are old. Like that's all I really remember. Um, I don't even remember what year that was, but I was young.
I'm looking up the list.
Okay. And then when I was, I think freshly removed from college, man, Maroon 5, Adam Levine's halftime show was brutal. They were so bad. I'm a Maroon 5 enjoyer. Not now, not recently, but they got a couple banger albums, and their halftime show was abysmal.
I'm trying to figure out what Up with People is. Oh, it's okay. It's some state. Don't worry about it. Anyway, I'm trying to find like now that I'm going on the Wikipedia page, I'm like, when did they start having acts that people actually like? I guess Super Bowl 24 had Pete Fountain, who I've never heard of. New Kids on the
Yes.
Block for Super Bowl 25. Gloria Estefan, I guess, is someone who,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
is starting to get. And then um, Michael Jackson at Super Bowl 27 is probably the first real one that kind of jumps out.
Yep.
I'm sorry, was there an Indiana Jones themed Super Bowl half? Okay. Um. Anyway, I'm gonna get lost in this if I'm just trying to find out when the Who performed. Um. Obviously, I think the like Janet Jackson one is pretty iconic because of the whole incident there. Wow, they had Bruce Springsteen in '09. Okay, 2010. Yeah, it was a little before my time. I read an article recently. They were saying Black Eyed Peas was one of the worst. I don't remember that super vividly, but Coldplay did Super Bowl 50. This is the one that I remember being like, I just don't think they had the presence quite to do this.
Mm.
Um,
Remember the Katy Perry Sharks, the double left shark iconic?
that is iconic. Oh, the weekend was 5 ago. That feels. I remember I liked when they had the kind of medley of kind of hip hop artists. That one was pretty cool.
Yeah, that one
Um,
was strange.
I honestly don't.
Rihanna's was actually pretty cool.
I was gonna say I don't remember Ushers, but I actually may not have watched that Super Bowl in its entirety.
I was gonna
And then
say that one
obviously,
doesn't ring a bell at all.
um, yeah, I liked Kendrick a lot last year. I thought Bad Bunny was good this year, and I am hopeful that the NFL continues to kind of push the boundaries with who they choose. Right? Like it or not, Bad
Taylor
Bunny.
Swift.
It does feel like they might be setting up tactically for a counterpunch where they bring in artists next year who are decidedly pretty conservative or at least conservative leaning sound, and then that suddenly like, oh, the NFL finally listened to us, and now all of the conservative community is engaged, right? So I
Red
wonder if
Hot
they're kind
Chili
of
Peppers.
um I feel like the one I see bandied about is like you bring in all the country artists, which I would feel very comfortable not sitting through, but it's okay.
Yeah, yeah. Anyways, back to the game and a couple of interesting things before we mosey on out of here into the awards. Something we of course have to point out: Sam Darnold, first Super Bowl quarterback from the 2018 draft class with Josh Allen, with Lamar Jackson, with Baker Mayfield, and with Josh Rosen. Don't forget Josh Rosen, number three pick to the Cardinals.
What is
Tough,
Josh
tough.
Rosen up to, you think, man? What's going on in his life?
Um, I don't know, man. Who knows? Who knows what Josh Rosen's doing? The
Um,
CFL,
I would assume, right? Anyway,
the UFL. What is that league called? Undisputed XFL. That's what it's called. It's called the XFL.
yeah.
Or is that? I don't know. Doesn't
They
matter.
they there was something, yeah.
Um, Also, the Seahawks became the first Super Bowl champion to go the entire postseason without committing a single turnover, which I thought was kind of shocking. There's been 60 Super Bowl winners.
And they're
Um,
the first to not have a turnover
so
in the
in the whole postseason, yeah.
wow. I mean, over the course of, I mean, that's minimum 3 games, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that is pretty hard to pull off, and speaks to why they looked like the best team in the postseason. I think they just were very consistent in that way. A clean machine, some might describe them as.
They
Um,
had, shockingly, the second most turnovers in the regular season. Do you know how many turnovers they had, Mr. Jarrett?
29.
28. Great
Wow.
guess.
Yeah, not really based on anything. That's kind of crazy. Okay, sweet.
So second most turnovers in the regular season, I think, was a big Sam Darnold thing, and people were kind of picking at why this team wouldn't succeed, and then he goes and doesn't turn the ball over in the playoffs. Of course, it's not just a quarterback thing, but I think that execution on offense is kind of why they ended up winning the Super Bowl because they didn't really need to do a whole lot as long as the other team also didn't do a whole lot because we already talked about the special teams getting in good field position with the punts. Jason Myers obviously being a very consistent kicker, all of that. So Seahawks win. Congratulations. Second Super Bowl for them, I believe. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah.
No, it was nice to see a team that seemed consistently strong throughout the year maintain that success and get a win that I think a lot of viewers of the NFL this year would agree was largely deserved. So, um,
I had them
let's
at 12 and
swing.
5. I had them as a good team. I don't think most people were that high on them coming into the season. I knew.
You spoke to it. I think in turn I had the Patriots higher than many people expected. So I think it was a bit of
Yeah,
a proverbial
I had
tete-a-tete.
I had the Patriots at 5 and 12. So
I
that
mean,
was a little
they played
tough.
closer to 5-12 in this game, so I don't think you're
Right. All
um
right.
very
Honors time.
very excited to talk honors. I think this is something we put a lot of effort into doing our best to predict, and I think we felt pretty passionate about this one overall. So excited to get a look here. I'm trying to pull up my team predictions to see if I was even in the ballpark on Seattle, but definitely some of these we were circling the right space on. I had the Seattle Seahawks at 8 and 9, and some of these we were in a very different space. So let's start with some have said the snipe of the century, with Josh McDaniels named the ass- assistant coach of the year. Sorry, Patriots offensive coordinator, and someone I listed as a dark horse for this award. So,
Very nicely done by you. Um, I didn't get it when I saw it because I don't think the Patriots offense was that good all year. Like that, in my mind they weren't like a standout offensive unit, but I did feel like there were so many standout defensive units that I feel like one of those coordinators maybe was a little more deserving. It just didn't make
mhm.
like I know that the Patriots were a surprise overall. Their performance shocked a lot of people who went on that huge win streak to end the regular season. And this is after the Super Bowl, so I don't know if it's like recency bias or whatever, but It just feels like I can't think of like, wow, that offense is unstoppable. Like really at any point this year.
They
But
schemed pretty well to push when they needed to, but I kind of agree, and I wonder whether we talked about how Terrell Williams was battling cancer all year, and so Zach Kerr stepped up as the defensive coordinator by proxy, essentially. And I wonder if the fact that there wasn't really a true defensive coordinator there maybe prevented their defense from getting the award, which maybe would have felt a little more appropriate because I think their defense was much more the signature of their team. But at the same time, this has to be a Drake May bump and a they were so awful last year bump. Because otherwise, I agree with you. I think I can point to probably 4 or 5 units that I would put above this one
Seahawks
in the league this
defense,
year.
the Broncos defense, the a lot of defenses, Texans defense, a lot
Yeah.
of good defenses, I think. Uh,
I I also wonder if the Bears offensive coordinator Declan Doyle now in Baltimore was a play calling offensive coordinator, whether the Bears
mm.
offense might have been like, here's another big leap that we want to celebrate, but the fact that Ben Johnson was clearly the architect there, not really gonna have a shot.
Yeah. Now that being said, I do think Mike Vrabel winning Coach of the Year for the Patriots, that makes a lot of sense with the turnaround they had. Gerard Mayo, obviously, very tough season last year for them. They were like what 4-13 or something, and then turning around and flipping that season on their head and being the 2 seed in the AFC. That makes sense more so to me than an offensive coordinator. So I was fine with him winning head coach of the year.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think this is another award with a number of quality candidates, and I think awarding it to him makes a lot of sense. It does make me a little annoyed that the assistant award also went to a Patriot, just because I think it would be nice to celebrate more than one team at a time.
For
And
sure.
I wonder whether it's worth having a conversation at the honors about whether multiple players from a team are allowed to win an award. I certainly think the same player should not be winning the same multiple awards in one year, which fortunately we avoided. But definitely a worthy winner. Uh, moving on, we'll hit these two awards. I'll give them together just because they're very related. Cardinals safety Buda Baker received the Art Rooney Sportsman Award. Tried to cover that. You can edit that out in post, right? Um,
Too much work.
Too much work. The Art Rooney's Sportsmanship Award winner. There's not a sneeze in the title. And Commanders linebacker Bobby Wagner named the Walter Payton Man of the Year. So basically winning the Ethical Ballers of the Year award. I'm not as up on what the Art Rooney Sportsmanship Award entails versus the Walter Payton Man of the Year. Maybe you have some insight there.
I certainly don't have insight, but I will say that I've watched a couple of Buda Baker interviews in my life. Um, One because of the iconic play where he intercepted the ball and DK Metcalf chased him down. One of my favorite like highlights ever. And
Mhm.
hearing his perspective of it, he sounds like a cool guy. And from what I understand, Bobby Wagner has always been, a pretty like stand-up guy as well. So if that is true, I'm happy for these ethical ballers. Congratulations on Ethical Baller of the Year.
Yes, we did not have predictions for these awards going in because I think that would be kind of crazy.
That would be
Uh,
who's going to do the most community service this year?
yeah. Um, the sad thing is you could probably bet on this, like you could do a Kalshi prediction market about who was the best person this year.
Dude, Kalshi makes me throw up. God.
Likewise. Thanks, Giannis. Anyway, that's it. That's for the two-man game listeners out there. It's a little two-man game throw. Uh, I'd say another unsurprising award. Niners running back Christian McCaffrey getting comeback player of the year. Thoughts on this?
Sad that, Hutch doesn't win it, but he came back. He was super injured last year, barely played. He was the only person that didn't get injured for the 49ers all year, which is shocking. So, not a surprise. Makes sense. And I'm not like mad about it. I have CMC fatigue, but I'm not mad that he got this award.
I'm glad you said that. I have massive CMC fatigue. I think I understand why he's a celebrated player, but I just feel like I don't know. There's something about CMC and the fact that he's on the Niners and the Kyle Shanahan celebration, that it all just feels very like um it feels kind of not gatekeeping, but there's a lot of respect for CMC as a player, but I don't think he dominates the discourse in a way that I kind of feel like these award winners should, but he's also just kind of always around. I
Hmm.
don't know. Anyway, I don't know if you have any more to say on that, or if you want to share the next award here.
I will share the next award. I also wasn't sure if you were researching something in regards to what we're currently discussing.
No,
Um,
I'm not. No.
Bears guard Joe Toney named the first ever protector of the year, which I think everyone would agree Joe Toney is an awesome offensive lineman. I think it's weird for a couple reasons. It's a guard is part of is part of the reason. I felt like this had to be a tackle award. I don't know why. Like it just feels like they're so coveted in the offensive line. But I'm not saying that a guard should ever win. I'm just a little surprised. And then the second thing I will say though, I feel like a lot of what Caleb Williams and that offense did really well this year happened when Caleb Williams scrambled outside of the pocket and made like heads up plays, throwing crossbody and kind of making these insane plays that really only he can make. And I know that's not always what they happen, but a lot of their big plays came from that. Um, so it's interesting because it doesn't feel like they're necessarily like a pocket team in terms of the passing game. DeAndre Swift and Kyle Guy were actually like really good, and maybe that's part of it from the backfield. It's just like it didn't stick out as like, oh yeah, that Bears O line was like really keeping him protected and solid, and he was the best O lineman. It struck me as a little odd, but obviously he's a great player.
Yeah, it caught me. I think a lot of people were kind of caught off guard by this one. I think you make a good point that Caleb's play style is distinctly not sit in the pocket and get protected. And I think that this was also a team that made multiple additions to the offensive line.
Yeah.
And certainly the Bears offense was pretty successful. I just don't feel like I was ever watching and going, man, their guard play is really what's making this team go. That said, I'm not particularly educated on the matter. I This one was just certainly off the radar for both of us, if I'm not mistaken. And
Hmm.
good for him to win Protector of the Year. Rooting for Penei Sewell to win it next year. I suppose we'll see.
Yeah, I do remember you talking about the offseason moves. You talked about the Bears offensive line. I don't remember if it was best or where you had them in like the top five one way or the other. I don't
One
remember
or the
which one
other,
it
yeah.
was. Uh,
I don't either, to be honest. Hmm. Well, I guess it worked out for him.
yeah.
Let's move on to the two rookie awards, starting with Panthers wide receiver Tet McMillan being named Offensive Rookie of the Year. Was this a surprise for you?
This was my dark horse, my number three pick coming into the season.
Nice.
So
Very
this is my
nice.
my first victory lap that I can take. I had Ginty and Cam Ward because obviously those are the two super obvious ones to me. And then I was like, who is Bryce Young gonna throw to over there? I don't know. That guy's pretty big. And here he goes. He gets that Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think he had like pretty close, if not 1,000 yard season. Um, which is an impressive feat as a rookie to do. So
Yeah. Um, I certainly think he probably ended up just being kind of the most consistent, right? I think if you looked at week 8 and took a snapshot, this was Emeka Egbuka's award.
mhm.
Um, Injuries and some consistency issues, probably coupled with the fact that the Panthers are able to make the playoffs, I think were all enough to push Ted McMillan up. I will say, certainly not reached household name status yet. I think Ted McMillan's the kind of receiver, the Panthers are the kind of team, frankly, where if you're not super plugged in on the league, you don't have a great landscape of where they're at. But I think this marks Tet as a name to watch going forward, and hopefully able to make the most of receiving this acknowledgement here and make the most of being partnered up with a quarterback who, you're right, does not have many other meaningful options. Um,
Yeah, I think you said it best too. He was consistently good. Other people had weeks or stretches, flashes. Um, yeah, but he was kind of good all season.
this certainly, I will say, feels like probably the softest. Like, not with all due respect to Ted McMillan, I don't know if he is like the most exclamation point offensive rookie of the year we've seen in the last 10 years per se. And I
For
think there were
sure.
other guys like Ibuka or Cam Skataboo who maybe had a better shot at this award if they were consistently healthy throughout the year. So that said, I think there's a chance that McMillan is a dog for years to come, and I look like a fool. So
Let's talk about that defense. Browns linebacker Carson Schwessinger, defensive rookie of the year. Um, yeah, if I looked at like if I made this pick week five, this is who I would have picked. He came out of the gates looking like a monster and stayed that way all season on a very good Browns defense with a very subpar team otherwise. Not one of my three picks. I don't know where he would have been on my list. Abdul Carter, that was a whiff of a pick for me. I had Malachi Stark, so I think was pretty good. I also thought at the beginning of the season of having Nikim and Worry for the Seahawks, who
mhm.
probably was pretty close to winning this award too. But I was like, I don't know if he's gonna start for this team. And then Will Johnson I had, but he was just injured too much.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a little bit easier in a position where you're making a lot of impact plays. And while being a linebacker isn't always touted as a high impact position, his name was just always getting called because he was so consistently making tackles. And the fact that um this was honestly in terms of rookies that I have hope for, there are definitely plenty of them, but in terms of like instant impact guys, I think the list is much shorter this year than the average year. Um, Jackson Dart was a guy. Uh, Travis Hunter getting injured, who was my number one pick for this award. And then the Falcons edge rushers, I had Jelon Walker, who was one of them. Wasn't able to really convey that. It definitely seemed like a year where the rookie class didn't necessarily come out of the gates firing, but to be seen whether they're able to kind of turn that around. I think Schlesinger is the real deal, though. He certainly earned this award with his play.
If I'm not mistaken, he was first pick of the second round, so he was
Yeah,
the holdout of, wasn't he the guy that started the whole second round contract holdout thing?
I think he was one of them, but it ended up being Quinshon Judkins, who was the last to sign.
But
No,
like
I
he was like, I'm not signing my thing right away. I want more money or something, right? Like
I
more
thought it was
guaranteed money.
The Niners second rounder, if I'm not mistaken. And then
You
it
could
was
be
sort
right.
of because I think what it might have been is like the first few picks are all of the second round are on a pretty solid pay scale, and then it might have dropped off precipitously. Um, I might actually I'll scroll down and see if I can find our notes on it. Why don't you tell us about the most obvious OPOY of the that could have been chosen here?
Yeah. Seahawks wide receiver Jackson Smith and Jigba, offensive player of the year, route running machine. Just really getting the engines going on that offense, being where he needs to be, catch the ball at all times. Uh, I should have I should have said this. We should have said this. We should have at least brought this up, so I'll do it real quick before I forget. We were talking about the Super Bowl. Christian Gonzalez guarding the heck out of him, trying to fight for his life to stop him from kicking their ass. He had a great game, Gonzo. He almost had a couple of picks too. He had a couple of like he was like, oh, he just blocked a touchdown. Yep. Um, Two plays I remember. One was Shaheed over the top. He dove and made like a diving swat at the last second because the ball was slightly underthrown. And the other one was at Jackson Smith and Jigba in the end zone for a touchdown, but it was thrown a little behind him. So Gonzalez kind of got back in and swatted it after JSN burned him. Um, so yeah, I should have mentioned him, but JSN, yeah, going into the playoffs was so obviously going to be Offensive Player of the Year. I think there's probably a case for Puka, but he had a couple of weeks out, and I think that ultimately probably gave Jason the edge. And there's no Devontae Adams on this Seahawks team either. I didn't have him on my radar coming into the season. I thought their offense was going to be a little more balanced. I thought they were going to lean a lot on the run game with Sam Darnold at QB, especially with the dual-headed backfield of Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, which shout out Kenneth Walker for the Super Bowl. I love the way that guy runs. So I didn't have him on my radar for this, but definitely well deserved for his skills this year.
Yeah, I mean JSN. was, I would say, a revelation and one of the true breakout players of the season on the most successful team of the year and consistently high performing offense. Not necessarily like a game breaking offense. They definitely were a defense first team, but they had some nice performances. I remember the duel between the Seahawks and Bucks felt like a nice signature moment for him. Um,
Him and
Schlesinger was not
him
the
and
re
Stingley when they played the
Stingley. Yeah.
Texans. Yeah, that was a good one.
Um, Schlesinger got a fully guaranteed deal after the number 34 pick. Jaden Higgins of the Texans got a fully guaranteed deal. And it was the fact that they had fully guaranteed deals that created a pause for the rest of the top 10 in the second
Mm.
round because they were all negotiating more guarantees. So it wasn't necessarily Schlesinger's contract that did it, although it was kind of one of the first dominoes to fall. And it was his running mate, Browns defensive end Myles Garrett, who unanimously took home Defensive Player of the Year, the second ever. And if you set the sack record, it's just about set in stone. The fact also that he accelerated so aggressively towards that record, I mean, it was such a dominant and well publicized run that it felt almost set in stone from probably week 10. It was Myles Garrett's award, and sure enough, he wins it unanimously. No doubt about the DPOY this year.
My number two pick coming in this year, baby. Yeah, let's go. Myles Garrett enjoyer right here.
Wow, he was not on
Um,
my list. That is crazy. Whoops.
I had Will Anderson in number one.
I had Micah, which if Micah hadn't gotten hurt, I wonder if we would be having more of a conversation. But
Well, breaking the sack record, making them
that's
unanimous.
yeah,
Do you
it's tough.
know who the only other unanimous DPOI is
Was it
and
Myles
when?
Garrett last year?
Myles Garrett was Pat Surtain was DPOI last year.
Oh,
Um,
well, that's a crazy take. If not Myles Garrett, was it J.J. Watt one year?
it was JJ Watt. Do you know what year it was in?
2016?
2014. Not a bad
Oh,
guess, Jared. You're killing it today in our little trivia.
besides guessing the wrong Defensive Player of the Year last year, yeah, I'm on pretty good shot.
Um, that's okay. Yeah, I think this was Myles Garrett's first time winning, which is kind of one of the reasons I voted for him. It's like, unless you're Aaron Donald, I guess, who can win the award a billion times, or JJ Watt, I feel like they don't often give it to guys more than once. I don't know why. Um, I mean,
Yeah, I
I know, it's to spread it out. That is why, I guess, but
I think there should be more rules and more transparency around like if that's truly the philosophy, that's fine. But I think you should come out and say so because, you know, if you have another dominant year, but it goes to someone else to kind of spread the wealth and you get a real shot at it, I'd be kind of frustrated if they're like, well, we wanted to diversify who won.
yeah, it's like let's say next year Myles Garrett has like 26 sacks, so he like barely breaks the record again, but like a DB has like 18 interceptions. They might be like, well, we just gave it to Myles Garrett. Let's give it to this other guy.
Granted, I'm sure the record for interceptions might be half of that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. I was just like, I have no clue. I was like, that's the amount of games there are. It has to be
actually, I
like 12
believe
or something.
was it Lions legend Dick Night Train Lane who or he was doing it for the Rams, I suppose, but 14 picks in one season is the
Yeah,
record. So
14. That's a lot. That's a lot
and
of
that was
interceptions.
1952. I don't know why I thought Night Train Lane was he was with Detroit, but later. Um, yeah. So that's going to be a tough record to touch. It seems like in the more modern NFL, the kind of league leader number typically hangs around 10, 9, 10. So
Yeah, I feel like
uh,
Byard had a ton of interceptions this year. Was he the leader
I
this year?
yeah, he was the leader this year. How many do you think he had?
9.
Actually, only had 7 picks.
Wow. I feel like I watched all 7 of them.
Seriously, yeah. Well, it's just who would have guessed? He's actually been the interception leader twice, as alongside Xavier Howard of the Dolphins of all people. So
Wow.
anyway,
Was he with the
anyway,
Titans still?
Xavier Howard,
No, Byard when he led.
Byard's with Chicago.
No, no, I thought you said he led it twice. Or you're saying somebody he was tied with somebody this year.
No, Kevin Byard was not. You said he was still with the Titans about Kevin
No,
Byard, right?
no, I thought you said he let it. I thought you said this is the second time he's done it.
It is.
I was asking if the other time he
Was
was
when
with
he
the
was with the
Titans.
Titans.
Yeah,
I believe this is yeah, it was. It was in 2017.
yeah,
And so yes, he's done it with two different teams and 8 years apart, which is kind of crazy.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, he had a great season this year. I think a lot of their successes, honestly, can be attributed to his performance at the back end of that defense. So
Their safeties, Kevin Byard and C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
CJGJ, who
Uh,
also tied for the lead 1 year in interceptions, legend.
crazy,
Um,
crazy.
yeah. Okay. That is the DPOY, and so MVP. This was a highly touted race between Matthew Stafford and Drake May.
Drake, May, May. Come on now.
Drake May, and with one more vote than Drake May. Matthew Stafford, in the twilight of his career, takes home the biggest award of the night, being named MVP. Um, and it was really close, 366 total points to 361 for Drake May, and 24 first place votes for Stafford, 23 for May. There was a lot of controversy over the other three first place votes. Did you see any of this?
No, I didn't actually.
Okay, let me confirm. Don't look it up. MVP
Yeah.
votes
While you're
NFL.
looking it up, I will say like it's interesting controversy because like I know Stafford and May were clearly going to be the last two. I know like Trevor Lawrence was somehow a finalist. That was crazy. I don't remember who the other two finalists were, but this was not a year to me where it was like, oh, this is so obviously the MVP. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
that's why the race was so close between these two guys. But even it didn't even seem like these two are so obviously the MVPs because I don't think like I think Stafford probably did deserve it. I would have definitely voted Stafford over Drake May because, like I said, I don't think their offense was that great this year. Um, but yeah, it's weird that there was controversy, as you say, because it wasn't like someone was leaps and bounds above everyone else, unless they voted for someone absolutely dumb. So tell me about this.
Okay, I wanted to confirm the other two votes because I knew who the third non-Stafford Drake May vote was. Josh Allen got two votes, which fine. And then there was one more vote.
Okay,
So 24 for Stafford, 23 for May, two for Josh Allen, and one for who?
Trevor Lawrence.
Nope. That would have made
Okay,
sense.
that was another finalist. I'm trying to remember there was a running back that was a finalist, wasn't there?
I
Was it
don't believe
Senior?
they were in the top five.
Oh, there was just a random player. Was it a QB?
It was a QB.
Was it Patrick Mahomes?
It was not Patrick Mahomes. That'd
I
be
was gonna
terrible.
say that'd be. You said it was it was kind of
Yeah,
um
it's one of those where it's like, yeah, but like no. Like it's
Bo
just on the
Nix.
outside of it's not Bo. It's not Bo time.
Um,
Was a playoff QB, but it was not Bo.
yeah. Was it Caleb?
See, I could even see the argument for Caleb. Do you want me to just tell you? Because I don't know if you're gonna guess this.
I'm in agony over here. Was it for Jordan Love, the legend Jordan Love?
It was not for Jordan. Well, Jordan Love didn't even play all season because Malik Willis
Yeah.
had come in for a few, so it was not
Yeah,
Jordan.
tell me who it is.
Justin Herbert, baby, getting the 30th vote.
Yeah, that's a crazy vote.
Yeah, Sam
Whoever
Monson came out and was like,
there
I
you
did
go.
it. Kind of crazy. But his rationale, the offensive line was so bad that like Justin Herbert was doing so much individually for that team, which like fine, but
True, but did he do that much in comparison? I think it's the
Justin Herbert, who marshaled the Chargers to 3 points in their playoff appearance. Like
right.
let's not pretend that he, if you had said, oh, he got to like the doorstep of the AFC Championship and lost a super close one to the Broncos, like whatever. But I mean, eh, he wasn't valuable enough to get them anywhere in the playoffs. So
He didn't
a
even
little
have
wild.
4,000 passing yards. That's
That's
crazy.
wild. That is wild.
Actually, Josh Allen only had 3,700 yards, but Josh Allen also has like the most rushing yards by a lot and rushing touchdowns and stuff. So,
Yeah. Just definitely Justin Herbert
tough.
affected a few games, but not enough to me.
No, 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 no. So this close MVP race between Matthew Stafford and Drake May, whatever, um, was the closest race since when between who do you think?
I'm gonna guess based on the width of this text box. Was there a year? Was it like '05 when Brett Favre and Peyton Manning were co-MVPs, or Peyton Manning was co-MVP with somebody? Is that
Oh, you are on fire. Peyton Manning and another quarterback tied and were co-MVP in 2003.
in '03? Okay, but it wasn't Favre.
Wasn't Favre.
I feel like, let me think about '03.
Sure.
I feel like it just feels a little early in Brady's career. I don't think it was Brady. Um, who else was like a great QB at that time? I feel like it was a bit of a lull. I don't think it was.
This is a person that I know you have to know. I don't know if any casual football player or football enjoyer would know who this is.
I have to know this person.
I think so. Be shocked if you didn't.
Let me think out loud. So I know that the Lions quarterback coach Mark Brunell had a great career with the Jaguars in the late '90s, but I don't think that that was his peak. Um, '03.
Like if
Um,
like if I asked Dom who this person was, I don't think he would know.
I feel like the Vikings had some sort of crazy season where they like absolutely popped off. Um,
No, not Dante Culpepper.
I'm not thinking. I was
I like that
maybe
guy
I'm thinking
though.
of like, is Randall Cunningham? Was he for the Vikings in the late
He
'90s?
is he's old or Eagles, I think.
Eagles. Okay, man, this is someone I should know. And oh, is this like? There's no way this would be like Doug Flutie or something, would it?
No, no. It's I say you should know because it has to do with your hometown, Jared.
Tennessee. Oh, is this it's like Vince Young or something?
No, this Vince Young was like came out in like '08.
There's no way that's true. Is that true?
Yeah, Vince Young is definitely not early thousands.
Um, uh, let's see when Vince Young, 2006. Okay, not terrible. It's was Warren Moon still playing at this time?
Now Warren Moon, you're
Jesus.
there's a big quarterback you're missing in between those two.
Between Warren Moon and
He had
Vince
he had a
Young
great nickname too. Great nickname.
in Tennessee?
His
Oh, is it no, I don't know why my brain went to Kurt Warner. That doesn't make sense.
that's crazy.
Wow, I
His
for the
nickname,
Tennessee Titans?
yeah,
Was that
for the
where he played
Tennessee
his whole
Titans.
career?
I don't know, but that's where I know him from.
Between Warren Moon and Vince Young. Um, wow. I assume this has to be
He was
Music City Miracle quarterback.
he was the he was on the Titans at this time.
This is a
Uh,
great listen for all involved.
From he was on the Titans from '97 to 2005.
This is the Music City Miracle, then, wouldn't it be? Are they in the Hall of
I
Fame?
I don't know. How would I even check that? Let's see. His nickname rhymes with his last name. In fact, it's just part of his last name.
His
It's a
nickname
blank,
rhymes.
and then his last name is his nickname. Just so he was inducted in the Hall of Fame in 2020. All right.
2020. Wow. What other teams was he with, if not the Titans?
He was with the Ravens in '04 and '05, and he was with the Texans for a couple of years before he was with the Titans.
He was with the Texans?
Yeah.
Or
Number
was it the
nine.
Oilers?
I think it was the Oilers. Yeah, sorry. It was
But it's
Houston.
not it's not Warren Moon.
It's not Warren Moon.
You got to tell me. I have no idea.
This is Air McNair, baby.
Oh, Steve McNair. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not a guy whose game I'm super familiar with, but I have heard of Steve McNair. So that is fair. Um,
Yeah, I thought you would
yeah, I
have
guess he
had
was
that
with
name.
Tennessee. Yeah, no, that's fair. It's a reasonable. Like now that I think about it, have I heard his name bandied about? Yes. I just feel like he didn't necessarily have. I mean, I guess he's a Hall of Famer, but um,
And
yeah, I guess I
a
just didn't know that part.
co-MVP.
MVP. That's crazy that I didn't know that. Um, three-time Pro Bowler. Yeah, MVP. Wow. Okay. Um, I mean, the fact that I knew it was split between those two, I'm
Peyton.
going to take.
Yeah. In the same division. Kind of funny.
Yeah. 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 Okay. Um. Anyway. Anyway. Oh, I guess they were. Yeah, because Colts. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Uh. Let's.
Speaking of the old Hall.
Yeah. We teed this up pretty well. Who are our finalists? Who made it? Who's in?
So yeah, they released like 15 finalists to like 2 days before, and then they were like, it's these five. And it was leaked before the honors, and people were sad about that and whatever. But 2026 class, Hall of Famers, Drew Brees, Larry Fitzgerald, Luke Kuechly, Adam Vinatieri, and Roger Craig. Some other people that were listed as finalists that didn't ultimately make the cut. I just included names that I thought were kind of worth mentioning. There's some old heads I'll probably offend, and I apologize for that. Eli Manning, Frank Gore, Jason Witten, Marshall Yanda, Terrell Suggs, Bill Belichick. We already talked about the Bill Belichick thing. Robert Kraft, we kind of already talked about that too. I'm super cool with Robert Kraft not being there. Um, and there's guys like Reggie Wayne, Torrey Holt, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Jared, when you see this list of five, which by the way, five is the max that you can induct every year, kind of insane. We may need to remedy that. Um,
Yeah.
is there, are there like, how many surefire guys do you look at this list of five? You're like, yep, 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 yep. How many of the five are you like, absolutely, without a doubt?
Also, by the way, looking at the list of 15 finalists to see if you were missing anyone for the old heads, Jari Evans is a name that like is burned into my brain, but I did not
I don't
realize
even
was
know
in
who that
the team.
is.
He was a guard for the Saints during their Super Bowl era. Anyway, I uh I don't know why that name sticks out. Of these five, Drew Brees, Larry Fitz, Luke Kuechly, Vinatieri, and Roger Craig. To me, the three that I'm like, yep, Drew Brees, Larry Fitz, Adam Vinatieri. They're Hall of Famers.
I have the same three. The same three that I'm like, absolutely, 100%.
Luke Kuechly to me was very much a maybe.
His career is
Good for
so
him.
short. So it was like 8 years, his whole
Yeah, and I
career.
I get it was injury, right? I do. I think that um, I wasn't necessarily as plugged into the game to the level where I could really comment on him, besides knowing he was one of the big names in the
Oh,
league at that
he was
time.
a beast. I remember watching this Panthers team because he was on that Super Bowl team. Um, he was a monster. But I mean, in like his 8 years, he had like seven of his eight every year, but his rookie year was an All Pro. So like
I mean, that's
he was a
pretty
freak.
astounding. Yeah, I think the fact that he kind of burned so brightly. Roger Craig, was he like a Niners running back from the 90s?
Nine is running back. Yep, that's he
Sure.
won three Super Bowls, so that's the whole
I get
thing, I
it.
guess.
I look
Um,
at the finalists you listed here. I don't have a
yeah,
huge problem with Eli not being first team. I really
sure.
hope Frank Gore makes the Hall. He just feels like
I
one of
love
those
Frank
guys.
Gore. I
Yeah,
love Frank Gore. The longevity of Frank Gore's career, he was like what 16 seasons, I think, as an NFL running back is insanity. From
yeah.
'05 to 2021. If I got that right, I'm a ball knower. Um,
His first year was 2005, and his last season was in 2020 to 2021. So yeah, I guess
Ball nowhere. That's the
all
exact
knower.
range that I
Yeah.
said. Um, yeah, I love Frank Gore. I hope he gets there one day because I think he's awesome. Um, that I would have taken Frank Gore, Niners running back, over Roger Craig, Niners running back. Um, and granted, Frank Gore went to a bunch of different teams after his time with the Niners, but he had like 12 straight seasons of like 1,000 yards or something insane like that in there. So I think that longevity matters in a league where a lot of people don't last that long. I have fond memories of Terrell Suggs as kind of a youth ball knower. I I kind of liked him more than the other guys on that defense, like Ray Lewis and Ed Reed. I was a Terrell Suggs enjoyer. Um, we could talk about Bill Belichick forever. He'll be there next year probably. Yeah. No, none of these other names. Jason Witten, sorry, you're a Cowboy, so I automatically dislike you. Unfortunate.
Marshall Yanda and Terrell Suggs both seem like players who will get in, but it will take a while.
Hmm.
I will say, looking up Gore's counting stats, he has the third most yards
Yes.
of all time, which is
Yes.
crazy. And I understand, right? Oh, okay, he played 16 seasons. How many yards do you think Frank Gore had after playing what we said 16 seasons?
Oh, like all time. You're asking me like his all-time
Like his
number?
total rushing yards all time. Number three.
Oh, brother. I should know this.
The
I
number's kind
sh
of crazy. The number's kind of crazy because of the 16 season stat.
Yeah. Is it like? Oh, I'm trying to remember how much Emmett has because I know he's the leader.
Emmett has
Um.
18,355.
Okay. I was gonna say like 15,000 for Frank or something
Frank has exactly 16,000 yards.
for 16 seasons. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's crazy. And I feel like I think Frank Frank should make the Hall. I believe that. And
Beloved teammate.
absolutely. You listed some first-time eligible candidates in 2026, 27. Rob Gronkowski feels like a pretty surefire Hall of Famer. It just might not be that first year. Ben Roethlisberger, Adrian Peterson, some controversy around him, but he does have a league MVP. Richard Sherman, Cam Newton. I don't believe Cam Newton has a case, but you listed Antonio Brown, right? I
Yeah.
feel like the off the field might kill that.
The off the field may well kill it, but I listed him because he was the best receiver in the league for at least 5 years.
So it's a fair point. Andrew Whitworth and Le'Veon Bell also potential candidates. I think Whitworth's a nice pull. Um,
Yeah, is there any right here that kind of stick out to you? It's like, oh
of
yeah,
these
that guy's going
eligible,
in.
I think Big Ben's going in. He's had some controversy, but I think he was just around too long and responsible for a ring and part of the identity of the Steelers for the last 15 years.
I would agree
I
with
think
you, but I would say that Eli has maybe even a better case, and he didn't get in this year.
it's a fair point. I would argue that Big Ben, I think, had a reputation for playing higher level football on average than Eli did.
Yeah,
Um,
I would agree with that.
I think Sherman has to make it. Honestly, I would say the names here I don't think will make the Hall are Cam Newton, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, and Whitworth's a maybe to me, but I think he actually has a really good case, especially leaving with a ring. Um, do
Yeah.
you agree, or do you have any other names you're skeptical of?
No, I agree. Um, I'm probably a little more skeptical of Sherman than you, and maybe a little more in support of. I mean, Cam Newton, has an MVP. I don't know what that means. He might have, his prime might have been a little too short. Um, I think Adrian Peterson and Gronk both feel like they're first ballot next year, I would imagine.
Yeah. I would say with Sherman, I think it's fair to question him as maybe a first ballot. I just think that when you look at the identity of Seattle's defense being the heart of two Super Bowl teams and Sherman being the mouthpiece for that, I
Yeah.
think he and many of the rest of the Legion of Boom have a real chance. Although it's crazy to think that Richard Sherman is up for the Hall of Fame and Bobby Wagner just won Walter Payton Man of the Year as a current member of the league. Like that's kind of hard to
Yeah.
put two and two together on that. That's kind of
You got to be out of the
unbelievable.
league 5 years before you can be eligible. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's pretty
wild.
impressive. And I think honestly, I think if Philip Rivers didn't make it this year, I think he'd have a pretty good chance. But obviously, his eligibility resets having come back with the Colts this year.
Does he
Now
come
on to
back
become
next year? I
that'd be
don't know.
crazy. That'd be awesome.
Interviewed for the Buffalo Bills head coaching job. Fucking crazy, man. What's
It's
going
that
on?
was a pretty nutty part of the season. Um, Anyway, let's skip ahead here. Let's talk some off season
Yes, sir.
news. And we'll move through this, I think, pretty quick. We've been yapping plenty, but the Saints are going to host. They'll be the home team in the NFL's first game in Paris next season, first ever in Paris at the Stade de France, the country's national stadium. So, um, this
Correctly
is
done by the NFL.
yeah, that feels right. It feels pretty accurate. Obviously, the Fleur de Lis being their logo feels very on brand.
Yeah, what do they know about that Louisiana purchase? Um,
Good point. Good point. Good point.
49ers defensive lineman Keon White was shot recently in his ankle in San Francisco. All signs point to him being okay, but obviously a scary thing to happen. And now the third 49er that has been shot. Of course, Brian
Who's the?
Robinson was not a 49er.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
he was a commander, but he is on the 49ers now.
Yep, yep, yep. That's I'm glad it was in a relatively non-sensitive area for vital organs and such. Hopefully, the ankle repairs fully, and he is able to get back to playing and practicing soon. Um, Much more serious news, I would argue here, in terms of long-term ramifications for the player. Falcons edge James Pearce Jr. was arrested in a domestic dispute with former partner and WNBA player Rickea Jackson.
I think it's
If I'm saying that
Rakia.
right. Rickea
Um,
Jackson.
do you
And this
know what happened here?
there was a car chase.
'Cause I can, yeah, he like ran his car into her car.
Oh,
Yeah.
and then tried to get away.
No, he was like trying to harm her, and the police like tackled him. He was trying to resist arrest. It was like bad. It was quite bad.
Yeah, I I believe I recall James Pierce Jr. having some, there was some discussion about his character heading into the draft.
And
Falcons.
which Jared famously said was a bad idea to trade a first round pick for James Pearce Jr. That take is looking mighty strong at the moment.
Yeah, and I wish it wasn't, right? I would rather a young player had a promising season not alter his career and potentially deal serious harm to someone else. So it's concerning for sure, but I hope she is okay. I hope he gets the help that he needs. I have to imagine there's something going on there to precipitate that, and I I have to imagine. I mean, if the league doesn't come down on a well documented and obvious act of attempted vehicular manslaughter, I don't really know what we're doing at this point from a disciplinary perspective. Um, that said, not
Yeah.
optimistic.
Intentionally crashed his Lamborghini SUV into her car twice.
Twice. So yeah, I mean, you can't even make the argument that it was. Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, so shouldn't be in the league anymore. The end. That's my take there. Let's get into some coaching news, shall we?
Yes, yes, let's. We'll start here. Browns defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz has resigned and will sit out this season as his contract with Cleveland has not been voided. Which is, I feel like a little unethical by the Browns there. If you're not going to hire someone as your head coach, I feel like it's not necessarily fair to retain them in this way. But I suppose it's technically within their right. I think Jim Schwartz would be a highly coveted defensive coordinator whenever he comes available again, and I think it sets up for a very interesting next offseason coaching cycle with the fact that Sean McDermott will be in that cycle most likely, and then Jim Schwartz maybe as a coordinator can really soup up a team or form a nice combination with an offensively minded head coach.
Will Mike Tomlin come back? Who knows?
That's a good question. Yeah, yeah. Trade someone trades for his rights. Um, Speaking of the Steelers, well, let's stick with the Browns. Browns hired Ravens running game coordinator Travis Switzer as their offensive coordinator. I have no more to say about that fact.
I don't either. I feel like the Browns have hired six coordinators, yet they only have one coordinator right now. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah. Um, there's a lot going on there. The Steelers hired Brian Angelicio as their offensive coordinator from the Vikings coaching tree, as you pointed out before we started. I am also very unfamiliar with Angelichio as a coordinator here, so interesting hire.
Can he be worse than Arthur Smith? Who's to say? Um, no is the answer. Arthur Smith went back to college, I think. I don't know if we talked about that.
He did. I think we talked about, is it Ohio State that he went to?
I think it's Ohio State, yeah.
Um, yeah. Here's a tough one. Cardinals hired former Broncos head coach Nathaniel Hackett as their offensive coordinator.
I'm gonna throw up. That's how I felt
Yeah.
when I read this. Oh, brother. I was also reading, I was curious like where he went after. He was the Jets offensive
Yeah.
coordinator under Robert Saleh. I was like, oh my God, that's so bad. It's like this
Yeah,
is
well, they went to
so...
pair him back up with Aaron Rodgers, and then of course that went the way it did.
Right.
Yeah, I think this hire is anyway, the
Bad.
Broncos, yeah, there's not much to say. I can in theory understand you want someone who has experience at the offensive coordinator position because hey, you're a younger head coach. I'm not going to pretend that the team he inherited with the Jets as offensive coordinator was going to be any good on offense, pretty much regardless of who was back there. But yeah, not the phone call I make. To each their own. Uh, the Broncos made a promotion in house, promoting QB coach Davis Webb to their offensive coordinator position. Got a ton of interviews. Definitely was on the radar for a potential head coaching position. So the
Hmm.
Broncos, after firing Joe Lombardi, promote a coach on the rise to OC. I think this is a nice move for them.
Yeah, a little continuity. I think the season you had, the obviously tragic end you had with Bo Nix injuring himself at the end of that Bills game, why not run it back, so to speak? They were this close to being in the Super Bowl, so makes sense. Um, Giants hired former Chiefs offensive coordinator and former Bears head coach, among many other things, Matt Nagy as their offensive coordinator under Harbaugh. So this is going to be a very different team next year. I'm kind of
Yeah,
excited for it.
I feel like it makes sense to me that Harbaugh went with an older OC. I guess he's done young defensive coordinators in the past, had them on his team, but I I am pessimistic about Matt Nagy as a coordinator, as a coach, and
Definitely as a
I
coach, I would be like, ugh.
yeah, when the Titans were circling Matt Nagy, I was really worried. Maybe as an offensive coordinator, but I think it's difficult in the Kansas City ecosystem to separate. Okay, how much of that is Andy Reid? Um, I
I
think
also
this would
don't
be a
think their
very
offense was particularly good last year. So
yeah. Uh, I understand the pedigree of the team that he's leaving, and I think it's still based on how things went in Chicago up for debate how much he was an author of that success. So very curious to see
right.
where they go with that.
Yeah, a hiring I did like, the Jets hiring former Panthers and Colts head coach Frank Reich as their offensive coordinator. I really enjoy this hiring. Myself, I like him. I think he's a little underrated.
The way things combusted in Carolina worries me a little
Yeah,
bit. I think the fact that that so immediately dissolved is concerning. You wonder how much of that might have been the whole owner situation putting some weird pressure on this team. I think there's definitely potential for him to be a strong schemer of the offense, and I think he wasn't a bad head coach with the Colts. So, uh, very curious to see whether kind of sliding back into this OC role, he's able to kind of provide some nice consistency and stability on that side of the ball.
yeah. I also think like it's the Jets. Like you can't get much worse than whatever just happened. Um,
Yeah,
so
nowhere
they
to go
they
but
br-
up.
they bring in a guy with some experience at the very least.
Yes. Speaking of someone with direct experience, the Ravens hired former Dolphins defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver to fill their own defensive coordinator position. I feel like Weaver was pretty highly regarded with the Dolphins, and this is not a huge surprise, as I believe he came from the Ravens ecosystem and now returns there
Yes.
as their TC.
Yes. How about the Titans hiring 49ers assistant head coach Gus Bradley as their defensive coordinator? Um, I don't know if he was also the Niners defensive coordinator. among assistant head coach.
Do
Um,
you want to know who the Niners defensive coordinator was?
oh, it was Robert Saleh. I
It
did
was
know
Robert
that.
Saleh. Yeah, it was the guy who
Um,
hired him.
yeah, yeah. I did know that. you know what? I don't like this hiring. I don't like any of the, because they hired Brian Daboll, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I don't like this. I don't like this trio of coaches they're running over there.
Yeah, I feel like Gus Bradley is a veteran name and I imagine has a lot of cachet around the league. I remember he had a stop as Indianapolis's DC for a while as well. And the fact that he won't be a play caller maybe will give him more focus on helping kind of develop the scheme as Saleh calls plays. If I'm not mistaken, he was the head coach in I thought he was the head coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars at some point, but maybe I am confusing that with another coach. No, he's just yeah, he was, and then he's been defensive coordinating pretty much every year up until 2025 from 2017 on. So been in
Okay.
a lot of rooms. Maybe not the most flashy hire, but I'm not as down on this one as you are.
Yeah. But again, with the season the Titans just had, I guess it can't look that much worse than it did. So there's that. The Rams extended head coach Sean McVay and general manager Les Snead. No surprise for me. One of the most successful head coach GM pairings in the league for the last decade, basically. I would be shocked if they had moved on from either.
Yeah, I don't think that was really in question. I think this pairing is going to enter a transition period pretty soon with Stafford kind of coming to an end here. Sean McVay inherited Jared Goff, and then obviously made the move for Stafford. And Stafford, I believe there's talks he will play again next year. I'm not
He
100% sure.
announced when he got his MVP. He said, "I'm coming back."
Jeez. Whenever Stafford leaves, that'll be a nice test of for this pairing, but certainly a solid move. And then
Whenever
last
Stetson Bennett takes over as the Rams quarterback.
That's gonna be crazy. So good. The Raiders, lastly, we talked about this last week, but they've formalized the hire of Seahawks offensive coordinator Klint Kubiak as their head coach, and that rounds out our coaching cycle. There's a few more positions surely to be kind of tidied up here and there. Seahawks need to promote a new OC, so new guys still filling out their staff. So surely a little bit more to cover, but the head coaches are all filled up here.
Head coaches are filled. Most coordinators are filled. I'm like, I don't know on the top of my head because we've talked about so many of them. But I guess whenever people like Clint Kubiak, now is a head coach, so the Seattle have to find a new offensive coordinator,
Yeah.
obviously. Things like that. It's time, Jared. It's time for what I call Damon's Rooney Rule ethical baller check. Jared, how many minority, now with all the vacancies being filled, how many of those head coaching vacancies, 10, I believe, right, were minority hires?
Was it one?
Correct. One minority hire, which was
Robert Saleh.
Robert Saleh, Lebanese legend. Um, so that was the one minority hire, Robert Saleh.
Okay.
Jared, not minorities, but how many black head coaches currently sit in the NFL going into this season?
I'm really worried the answer. I think the answer, um, is it just D'Amico Ryans?
Not just Amico Ryans. It's a little more than that.
Todd Bowles. Is it two?
And you're forgetting former Lion legend
Oh,
coordinator
Aaron
Aaron
Glenn. Aaron Glenn is
Glenn.
three. Okay, my
There's
bad.
three. Oh, three out of 32 of a mostly dominated by African American players league has three African American head coaches out of 32 teams. Uh, a lot of controversy, not controversy, a lot of, I guess, like, people kind of just pointing this out. Like, yeah, there were a lot of minority interviews, Brian Flores is of the world, which, by the way, we didn't talk about, but that his lawsuit is going into open court. That was announced like today
Wow.
or yesterday. So they're moving forward with that. I didn't really know how to talk about that because I don't know what the fuck that means, but it's still happening. That's cool. And yeah, three black head coaches. Jared, what would you like to say to the black head coaches out there?
What I like to say to them,
Yeah.
um, thank you for coaching in the NFL, and I hope more black coaches join your ranks soon.
Well, passionate, passionate, passionate.
Well, you framed it as I was addressing them, and I really felt
Yeah.
like I am not in a position to say anything to them. What I will say
That's
is I
why it's
think
funny.
it's a little it's embarrassing for the league, and I think unfortunately with someone like Sean McDermott hanging out there, whatever positions do come open next year, we talked about Todd Bowles being on the hot seat. We talked about Aaron Glenn being on the hot seat, and Davis Webb and Philip Rivers and some of these young up and coming offensive minds are white, and that's worrisome. So, Seahawks defensive coordinator Aiden Durd, I believe white as well, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so, uh, actually, I don't want to necessarily. I'm not. Anyway, all this to say, I just feel like it's a really bad situation in the sense that a lot of the coaches who were bandied about and not hired are also white coaches. So could we see a cycle next year that is also dominated by white coaches again? I think it sucks.
Yeah, no Brian Flores, no Vance Joseph, none of that. Mike Tomlin and Raheem Morris both left, so two black head coaches lost, one hut or zero hired.
Yeah.
So that's tough. It's tough luck. Tough
And
luck,
as for the
tough
other
luck.
minority head coaches, it's only Dave Canales and Robert Saleh, right?
I'm not sure on the top of my head. But that would also still be insane. Five out of
No, it would.
32.
That's not me saying, but thank goodness we're all the
No, no,
way
no.
up
I
to
know, I know, I
five.
know.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it. I was just thinking like how many, black head coaches are there? Because I feel like I was thinking about the Brian Flores thing and all that. So, um, yeah,
Um, yeah, not having even a full division's worth of black head coaches in your eight division league is
and they can put them in their own division.
not what I intended to imply.
Joke, joke.
This joke has been brought to you by Damon. Jared was just listening.
Dude, Damon, who is part minority. I don't even count that much. So.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead and transition us to the close here. We're wrapping up episode 26 here and a wrap on the 2025 NFL season. Thank you so much for staying with us along this journey. If you've been listening, I think it was a really unique season and really
hmm
curious to see whether the league gets back to maybe some more expected results or whether we're going to stay in this sort of novel order of the league here where different teams are sort of at the top of the pop. So, very interesting stuff. And any closing thoughts on the season on the episode, Damon?
yeah, I think that the season in itself was interesting. I think Patriots Seahawks, if you would have predicted that at the start of the season, people would have been like, "You're crazy." So ultimately, the two final teams I think did kind of give us a surprising result, which is nice that it's not so predictable. I think that going for us here on the show into the off season, we are gonna, have to come up with some ideas to keep the old listener entertained. What are we gonna talk about that's football related? Maybe we'll dive in a little more into the Rooney Rule stuff, or maybe we'll dive into college a little bit. The draft, of course, we'll talk about the draft. That's going to be upcoming here. Maybe we'll have some trivia episodes. What does all that kind of look like for our first off season as 22 man game? I think will be interesting to kind of think about.
Yeah, certainly an opportunity too to maybe look into some scheme stuff and kind of like learn along with the
Mm.
listener about some of the nuances of the game there potentially. And yeah, combine's around the corner, so it's not exactly a super long wait. And then obviously the lead up to the draft, we could probably do a mock draft, have some have
A
some
whole
predictions
a
for
whole
that.
7 round mock draft. We're going
Um,
crazy.
don't tempt me with a good time. Anyway, with that said, I think it's time for us to sign off and I do have
Yeah,
a football. You
are
want
we
me to?
done with the kick? Are we doing the kick? I was going to ask, you
I'm gonna
know.
make the record setting fifth field goal here with Jason Myers.
Mm,
Be my kick.
okay. Where the, there I am.
All right. Kick is up.
Oh, the kick is up. I even saw it. It hit the camera. What a beauty. The fifth from Jason Myers to close out the 2026 season. The Seattle Seahawks are champions, and that kick, just like all the others, was good.